Instruction skill 12 is working with proportions. If I could only teach you one math skill in the world, only one, it would be this one. To me, this is one of the most useful math tools that you will ever see. And I want to start with this box. Remember, a proportion is formed by two equal ratios. Take care when writing the ratios of a proportion. The ratios must be in the same order. And I suspect our problem that we're about to look at is something to do with calories and minutes. So let's take a look at the story. About how many calories does an average man use when he bowls for 75 minutes? And this table is showing me average calories used in 30 minutes for 6 different activities, and it shows the amount of calories burned by men and women for the same activities. And they tell me that my answer is 300. And before I read the solution to this one, I want to work it for you. And then you can see where I am getting my answer compared to theirs. Now, the first thing I notice is the phrase about how many. So that suggests to me that I'm going to have to round, possibly. But the word average calories indicates that maybe the rounding has already been done. But let's see what we get. So we are talking about bowling, calories, and minutes. And I'm going to look at this box, bowling, and we want to focus on the column for men. And we also have to look at the title of this graph. It's 30 minutes. So the average man burns 120 calories every half hour of bowling. So let's set up a ratio that says that. So I'm going to say minutes compared to calories. And I strongly encourage you to set up your word ratio first. All right, so we have 30 minutes, burns about 120 calories. And then our other piece of information is right here. It's 75 minutes. So I'm going to set up another ratio. The 75 is minutes, so I want to put it in the minutes row. That's what it was talking about, matching up the right pieces. So the 30 and the 75 are both minutes. The 120 is calories, and this unit would be calories as well. I'm just going to use a C there. So to solve this, the way I do it, I like to draw what I call a peanut. It looks like a peanut to me. Around the two numbers that I can. You have to work diagonally. So here is why you would not draw it the other way. If you draw it that way, you've got the letter C in there, which you can do that. If you want to use an algebra form, you absolutely can do that. But I like to get the one that has my two numbers in it. Okay, 120, 75, and those get multiplied. And I'm going to use my calculator here. 120 times 75 is 9,000. So all I've done is multiply the peanut. Okay. And then whatever you get when you multiply the peanut, you bring it down here and you divide it by the number that was not in the peanut. And in this case, that's a 30. So 9,000 divided by 30 is 300. And that, remember, is calories. That was our missing piece. 300 calories in 75 minutes. So let's see how they do theirs. I suspect it will be like ours. Yes. Okay. Solution. Using data from the table, write a ratio comparing calories with minutes. Notice an average man uses 120 calories bowling for 30 minutes. So they have set up that initial comparison just like we did right here. Now they chose to put their calories on top, and that's fine. You can set it up however you want to. Step 2, write a proportion. In the second ratio, write the letter C to represent the number of calories used by the average man in 75 minutes. So they did exactly what we did, except they put calories on top. To solve for C, write equal cross products. Now this is where theirs looks a little different than mine. They didn't draw a peanut. They said 30 times C equals 75 times 120. And they came up with an algebra equation. This works. If this makes sense for you, that is perfectly fine. I'm going to use the peanut because that to me has worked best for my students. But if this works for you, you absolutely can do that. Either way, you will get 300 calories. So let's practice. Problem 1, which is a concept problem, refers to the table on page 36. So let me come over here. I'm going to erase the markup that I did and take a picture of this table. And then I will put the markup back in there so that it is not gone in my final video. Okay, so let's put this picture right here because we're going to need to look at this to understand. And I'm trying to make it smaller. There we go. Which proportion shows the number of calories C an average woman uses while gardening for 45 minutes? So I need that piece right there, 45 minutes. I need to look at the women's category and at gardening. So there's 150. And I also need this 30 minutes right here. Okay. And I'm not going to look at that. I'm just going to set it up the way that I would. Calories over minutes. You could do minutes over calories. It doesn't matter. And we know that the average woman would use 150 calories for 30 minutes. That is this information. So what if she gardened for 45 minutes instead of 30 minutes? And we're supposed to use the letter C for calories. So our answer will actually look something like this. And we have to look at our choices to figure out which one it is. I'm looking for 150 over 30. So here is a 150 over 30 and a 150 over 30. So it has to be one of those two. And then a C over 45. So it's this one. It has to be in the right order. This one is not in the right order. So the answer we want is number 2. You do not have to solve that problem. You just have to set it up. And that's what a lot of concept questions will have you to do. Just set up the problem, but not necessarily solve it. I don't like concept questions. They were always hard for me. Here's another one. A survey of the employees at Star Electronics reported that 4 out of 5 people preferred Amy's Catering to Valley Catering. If Star Electronics has 240 employees, which expression gives the number of employees who preferred Amy's Catering? Well, we know that 4 out of 5 employees, and let me set it up this way. 4 out of 5 employees, actually let me not set it up that way because I'm going to have a problem with the peanut. 4 out of 5 employees prefer Amy's Catering. Okay. So if there are 240 employees, and here's where I'm getting my numbers, 4 out of 5, and then 240, that's employees, so I'm going to put it on the bottom, and that leaves that empty space above the 240. But this one goes a step further. I don't have to solve it, but I have to start to solve it. So I will draw my peanut. Oops. Sorry. Let me color that in for you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. 4 times 240. You always multiply a peanut. So I am looking for something that gives me 4 times 240. Okay. And the only one that will do that is number 4. Because you would have 4 times 240, and then we would divide all of that by 5. And that is option number 4. That would give me the answer. Even though I don't have to find the answer, that would be the answer. That would be the method to find the answer. All right, here is a procedure question, and we can use the calculator. In Jefferson County, 2 out of every 5 people walk to work. This is important. That is a ratio. So let me just go ahead and set that up down here. 2 walk out of every 5 people. Out of a population of 200,000 people, how many walk to work? So the question is, does that 200,000 go on the top or the bottom? It's the bottom because it's people. Now, I don't use commas when I write numbers because I get them confused sometimes with decimals. I was bad to press the decimal key. But if you want to put the comma in there, you can. So I'm going to draw the peanut. And let me color it for you so you can see it very clearly. And we always do what to peanuts? We multiply them. So I would have 2 times 200,000. Be careful and don't lose any zeros. That's important. So 2 2s are 4, and then we have 5 zeros. Then I'm going to divide that 400,000 by the number that was not in the peanut, and that's a 5. And you can use your calculator. 400,000. Your calculator does not put commas in either. That would be 80,000, or option 4. Be careful that you don't choose option 2. You must get all your zeros in there. And that's hard sometimes when there are that many. But your answer is option 4. And let me just clarify what that is. 80,000 people walk to work. All right, here is the application question. It is also a calculator question. The manufacturing job distribution in a rural Oregon county is shown in the graph below. About how many people are employed in the food production business? So for Malheur County, 1,395 manufacturing jobs, 12% are printing and publishing jobs, 88% are food production jobs. So we are looking at food production. Out of 1,395. So we are saying 88% of 1,395. Well, 88% as a decimal is 0.88. The word of means multiply. 1,395 is my total number of jobs that are manufacturing. And I can use the calculator, thankfully. And that gives me 1,227.6. So I'm going to call that about 1,228 food production jobs in this county. And that is option 1. And we have finished this page. I would encourage you to do the computation review on pages 133, 132, 138, and 139.